All right, welcome everybody. Today we are going to be talking to a founder of an early stage company about the topic on social selling and getting a startup from zero to one. And to join us today is the founder of Lyzr.ai. Siva is with us. Siva, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Arjun. Glad to be here.
Awesome, Siva. So I want to just start off by asking you about your founder journey. Like, what got you to Lyzr, and like, what were you doing before that, and like, what prompted you to start this company?
Good. Yeah. Uh, this is my second venture. Lyzr is my second venture. So I previously built a company called Power Up Cloud, which was an award-winning AWS consulting partner. It was back in India between 2015 and 2019, and then grew that business to 200 plus people. Sold it to L&T Infotech, which is a large global SI, and then led a cloud business for L&T, which again we grew from 60 million to 200 million during a 3-year stint. And then when my time was done, I was itching to get back to the startup space. And it was right around when GPT 3.5 API had come out. So I think I'm born to do startups and build companies, not just startups. This time, it's not going to be just a startup. We really we have a big mission ahead of us. We are targeting to touch at least 5,000 customers. So hopefully this time it's going to be a much bigger company. But yes, I think there was an idea. I think with GPT 3.5 and whole this large language models coming out, there were actually more ideas that we had and a lot of problems to solve. So one thing led to the other, and we ended up starting Lyzr.
Yeah, tell me a bit more about like what Lyzr does and like who would you consider as your target customer base right now?
Interesting story, right? So Lyzr is an enterprise agent framework. We are helping enterprise companies and startups alike to build generative AI features for their existing applications, or if they already have I mean, if they have an idea, they can build a whole LLM application from scratch using Lyzr agent framework. So we compete with LangChain. LangChain is a very popular framework in the market today when it comes to building agents or LLM applications. So LangChain follows more of a functions and chains model of doing. Like if you are, for example, if you are to build a chatbot, you'll have to actually establish multiple functions, string them together as a chain, and then you have a chatbot using LangChain. So using Lyzr, our idea was to simplify this whole process. So we came up with a concept called agentic way of building. So if you want to build a chatbot, we already pre-built that as an agent for you. You just have to configure it and go live. You don't have to worry about writing those individual functions and stringing them together and debugging for error, etc. All of that is done. All you have to do is come in, configure the way you want, and go live. So this is ultra low code. We also have a no code option, but we recommend ultra low code because it gives just that bit more I would say flexibility for developers to build applications, LLM applications. So that's what Lyzr does today.
Got it. So your main target consumers would be like developers or data scientists and in organizations. Is that like your current target demographic?
Exactly. Also, the CTOs, starting with CTOs and CIOs.
Like,
If a CTO or a CIO would want to build Gen AI applications for their own company, they can use Lyzr framework and they can go live 90% faster compared to LangChain. What we also realized was with generative AI, data privacy is a concern that everyone has. So we wanted to address that at Lyzr in a native way. So Lyzr, if you see, we are not an API company. You can download these agents and run them locally on your own cloud account. So
hmm.
what happens? Your data remains within your cloud account. So that is another massive advantage that companies get because they don't have to worry about data privacy and security. All their compliance like SOC 2, GDPR, everything remains intact because the data eventually does not leave their environment. So that is why our go-to, I would say, customer personas are ideally CTOs and CIOs. CIOs, data security is taken care of. For CTOs, the simplicity is taken care of so that there is no steep learning curve. They can build faster. And interestingly, we are getting a lot of hits from the CPO side as well, the chief product officers,
Hmm.
because they are the ones who eventually come up with ideas, a lot of ideas on what to do with their products. They need a playground to build and get started faster. So we are also getting a lot of hits from CPOs. So these are the key, I would say, ICP for us.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. I think looks like you've done more of a startup before, and like you have a very technical engineering centric product right now, and that comes up, and so sort of shifting gears a little bit more to like the CEO or like the sales hat over here. I'm like kind of curious to know, like, selling into like organizations, especially in this world where there are like so many ways in which people are bombarded by like cold approaches and everything. What are some of the challenges that you faced taking this from zero to one? Like, how did you find like that first uh, customer base that you got validation from?
Got it. Like Jeff Bezos says, I still continue to say to our team that we are still at zero. So we are not got to one yet. But having said that, we've had some success for sure. The last 3 months since we went live, we have close to 50 paying customers now, and we are growing pretty fast. So I can happy to share what worked for us. The initial journey, I would say, the first 10 customer journey was always is always the hardest one,
Right.
um, and we had to try various things. So for example, I used to go through Upwork to see job postings of, okay, what kind of generative AI work, or what kind of generative AI requirements people are posting in Upwork. So I created an account. I started browsing through to understand the general trend, or the kind of requirements that people ask. And then I started writing to some of them as well, saying, hey, you know what, why don't you try what we have as a framework? You could probably build faster. And we started converting customers from Upwork. It was more of
Wow.
a research that I started, research work to try and understand the customer pulse. But we started getting some hits very early on from Upwork. The other strategy was to reach out to our network. So all my network, and all my our team's network, we started reaching out, started, and that is an ongoing process. To be honest, we would have covered only 3-4% of our network so far. I think network is
Nice.
a massive potential out there. You would probably get your first 100 customers just from your network. Like Paul
Mm.
says, you don't have to. You can actually get to a very healthy ARR just from your network. So that's a massive potential ahead. That's something that we also did. So these are the two primary crawl, walk, run kind of a
Right.
scenario. We're still crawling, but these two strategies did help us to get to where we are already.
I love it. No, yeah. I mean, I think you're still in like that zero to one phase, as you rightly mentioned that, like, one is like a big number when you think about it that way. But this whole like tapping into network, and I really like this Upwork strategy that you mentioned is like just going to where people are expressing their problems and like using that as a channel makes a lot of sense. And as you are like now building a more go-to-market approach around this, what are some of the different hits and misses at this point of time? Like, what are some of the new approaches that you're thinking from a marketing angle? And like, are you still in that network part of it? Or are you like grown on beyond that?
No, we've grown beyond that, to be honest. We don't do Upwork anymore. We do Upwork mostly to keep the research part going, but we don't,
Right.
like, say, source opportunities from Upwork. I think we hardly had 3 or 4 from Upwork. Network is something that we're continuing, but we are doing a lot of things. If you ask my marketing team, they always sound exhausted, and because we trying a lot of things. My thesis is this, right? We'll have to figure out, each company has its own culture, each company is an animal. We'll have to figure out what strategy works for us and then latch on to
Mm,
that, right? Like how you search for a PMF, product market fit, you should
right.
also search for a company marketing fit as well to figure out what works
Right.
for. So,
Right.
so we do podcasts on a weekly basis where we cover all the latest generative AI news with respect to enterprise only, like whatever news or releases that might make sense for enterprise customers. So we do that. We do a lot of blog posts. We also launched a generative AI course for enterprise companies by collaborating with multiple Gen AI tech companies. We are also actively building our community
Mm,
by launching a program called Anybody Can AI program.
nice.
Since Lyzr is a simplistic agent framework, because we focus a lot on simplicity, Lyzr is the best place for non-programmers to actually learn AI programming and get started.
Mm,
We tested this thesis with few folks who have never done coding in their life, and in a couple of hours we had them build their own chatbots, private chatbots.
mm.
We had them build their own private AI agents, and that was eye opening. And we thought, you know what, why don't we take it to more and more people out there? Imagine a product manager. If the product manager goes through the Anybody Can AI's coursework, which is free obviously, they, at the end of it, they can now say they are an AI product manager, because they understand
Right.
nuances of how generative AI works, how to build an application. So we are able to bridge the gap between the non-programmers and the programming world, which already is bridged to a certain extent by ChatGPT. It's
Right.
fantastic, writes code obviously. So if you see, these are the various things that we are trying to do. The bottom line is very simple. Uh, in everything that we do, can we add value to the customer? uh,
Nice.
right? So, and we try and pick those things. And I mean, the cringe stuff is, we don't do that. We don't do Instagram posts and etc. We're trying to stick to our core values, and one of that is, can we add value to a customer? If somebody spends 5 minutes with us, is that useful for them? So we pick and choose those marketing activities, and it's all about getting our brand out. So that's what we're doing now.
I really like it. I mean, I think the whole let's add value at every touch point is like a great marketing mantra in some ways, where people are going in for like, how can I get value from you? And like, instead, like, how can I add value? And I think some of the things that you mentioned around like sort of building courses and building community are all very much aligned to that principle that you're talking about, where you're adding value. And in some ways, like, kind of a good segue to my other question around your personal brand and thought leadership that you built. It's in a lot of times like the early stage companies are relying a lot on your personal network, or like the exec team's personal network, which is kind of how what got you to 0 to 1, and also on like your brand that you built around it. And you kind of mentioned podcasts as well. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how are you leveraging your brand and using that towards building the brand for your company?
Yeah. I mean, again, from my experience so far, whatever couple of things, companies that I did so far, I mean, one company, I built one company, but I worked at a large company. So what I realized was, it's very hard to live two lives. It is better to
Mm.
live one life. If you're building a brand, right, build a brand which your team can also associate with, and which also the an external folks outside of your team can also associate with. So it's far easier that way to build one brand. And my go-to brand has always been be the hardest worker in the room brand. So that
Mm.
is the only way that I know how to inspire people. Smartness and other stuff, thought leadership, all that is probably a cause effect scenario. But as a person, as an individual, can you give your best? So for example, Elon Musk's 100-hour work week always resonates with me. Narayana Murthy's 70-hour work week always resonates with me. I don't push that on the team though. I never tell them, hey, be available on weekends and stuff. But I want to set example to the team and to folks outside that, hey, I'm trying my best to solve your problem, solve a problem that you may have. So that's the brand that I stick to. I start my day at 3 a.m. I start coding at 3 4ish, basically. After, I mean, sometimes I go for a workout, sometimes I start coding. um, So I've taken away a lot of hobbies away from my stuff. I don't watch movies and stuff. So a lot of discipline had to come in my personal life as well, which my wife
Right.
and kids they also see. So that's where branding starts, to be honest. Number two, again, thought leadership. From a thought leadership standpoint, whatever we even if I write a blog post or if I create an explainer video, the same thought process, right? Do I add value to people?
Mm.
They are giving their 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes listening to the content or reading a content. They should have learned something. So when it comes to thought leadership, that is another value that I always hold very dearly. So these are the two things that I do when it comes to branding and the thought leadership aspect.
I really like this, and I think one thing that you said just actually makes a lot of sense to me, and it's a great takeaway for people who are, starting off their companies. Is like there has to be this core self belief that you want to build your like brand around, and like that should like sort of be there as a part of the company's culture, and that should be part of like how you present yourself into the to the world as well. And so maybe like a little bit more on that aspect of like how you present yourself to the world, like like the social aspect of it. What is your go-to channels right now when it comes to like presenting yourself? And like I've seen like you have a presence on LinkedIn, and like you make posts on the social network as well. What's your like thought around that, and like how do you go about in like allocating time to do that work?
Yeah. Um, I mean, there are a lot of, I mean, I admire a lot of people who are pretty prolific when it comes to posting in LinkedIn and Twitter. I honestly don't have that mindset, probably. So I kind of I kind of stick to what the comfort zone for me. The comfort zone for me is if I create any content like a video or I even build an app or build or write a tech article, right? When I realize that okay, I have something to share which is of value, then I go to the social media like LinkedIn or Twitter and share it. Twitter is a very new game. I'm just like probably a year old on Twitter. Twitter was never in the schema, but now I've started understanding because I learn a lot from Twitter, to be honest. And
Mm,
LinkedIn is again, since I've already built a following from my previous company, LinkedIn is a fantastic place to share a lot of ideas, a lot of thought leadership articles and stuff. So my social media play has been that it is not about uh, creating those uh, what to say good looking posts and stuff.
right.
But it's a
It's
skill.
not the vanity. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a skill. You'll have to appreciate that, and I don't have it. So I stick to again the data that I create. So if I could create some content that is useful, then I take it to the market. That has been my so far. Reddit is an interesting one. Reddit,
Right.
I've got beaten up twice or thrice probably, and then later I realized that Reddit is a very different culture. But now I still post on Reddit anyway. But long story short, this has been my social media, I would say, approach.
Yeah. One tip, well, I mean, so there are people who are there who are looking to build brand, including myself and including like many other people like me. You've done like some research using like Upwork and different channels, and like, so what would you say is like the best way for you to understand like what is your audience or your consumer looking for? How do you add value to them? Because there's just like a lot of things that you think you can tell them that like they may not add value. What is that feedback loop for you? When how do you know what kind of messaging and content to produce, and like how do you know that that's resonating with your audience?
Yes. Like I said, Upwork, and more importantly, some of the Discord communities are fantastic. So
Mm,
if you can hang around in your competitors' Discord communities, you will see what kind of interactions that are happening. And if your
mm,
competitor is not solving, there goes your opportunity. There is your opportunity to solve that problem and bring the customer back to your platform. So Discord communities, Slack communities, and Upwork are pretty good areas to listen. So just sit and listen. You can also start engaging with people in Reddit. Also, you can engage with directly with people if you kind of figure out someone is looking for a solution. So that is number one. Number two is the actual customer calls. So
Mm,
I always try and get on at least 15 customer calls per week. Some of the
mm,
calls are set up by the team. Some of the calls I do reach out directly and set it up, and also the inbound leads that we get. Because the more and more we speak to customer, we get a direct feedback from the customer, their problem statement. We also learn where they are in their learning curve, because generative AI is a very new thing. It's not like CRM, where most of us know how CRM works. When it comes to generative AI, different parts of the world has different are at a different place of the learning curve. So customer meetings are very important. The third one would be partners. So you have your
mm.
technology partners, could be the likes of AWS, Google Cloud, etc. Could be other technology companies, like for example, we have partnered with Pinecone, Quadrant, etc. So through technology partners, we exchange notes, and then we kind of share the problems that the customers face. These three have been the area where I was able to get a lot of feedback from customers.
I love it. Um, yeah, that's actually like a good point. Like you're almost keeping your ears open in many of these channels, and then like if you have an instant way to engage with them, that's there. But then you're also now like you have like a set of things that you know are like top of mind for these people. So you're creating like content around that that you actually then share with this. Um, what again, like what would you say, like, for somebody who is this just getting started, maybe they don't have the kind of following that you have, or they probably have not built a community or so, what would you say that they get started with? Because in the early stages of like you building like an audience or so, it's a big challenge, right? Like you're trying to add value to people, but like it's hard for you to reach the people and like give them the value where they want it. And so what would you say is the best? And again, it takes a lot of time, as you said, like, there are people who are spending a lot of time and effort and everything as well. um, what would be your tip on like where to get started and like how to keep yourself active doing that?
Yeah, I just thought about it when you were asking this. I would say probably three C's, right? Choose, commit, and be consistent. So
Mm,
first one
I
is
love it.
choose, right? Choose the forums. Do you wanna be a podcaster? Do you wanna probably share uh, in LinkedIn, like all these articles, informational articles, or do you want to be a bit more somebody who wants to tweet a lot, because you could also be more active on Twitter. The style of LinkedIn is different from Twitter, as you may know. The style is also different on
Right.
Reddit, right? So one has to find the comfort zone. So that's why choosing the right forums is number one. The second one is commit. For example, in our
Mm,
scenario, I have probably 10,000 plus followers on LinkedIn, uh, less than 1,000 followers on Twitter, and probably 100 followers on YouTube. So I really want to, because the content that we produce are liked by some of our customers. We committed for the next 12 months. We committed that we are going to produce a podcast episode every week about
mm,
generative AI news. So that is the commit part. So just commit for a whole year. Take folks like Harry Stebbings or Jason Calacanis. They've been committing for many years now, 10 years, 9 years. So that's the amount of commitment you'll have to make. So that is number two. The third one is consistent. You just have to be consistent. Committing for 12 months is fine, but what if you just produce a video every 2 months? So that is not being
right.
consistent, right? So consistency is like I like this. I like what Jason Lemkin says. If you are running a company, ensure that you bring this culture called Webinar Wednesdays. So every
Mm,
Wednesday 10 a.m. you're gonna do webinar no matter what. Doesn't matter who's gonna listen to you. Doesn't matter what's the topic. But as a company, you commit and be consistent about the webinar that you want to do. So these are the three C's that I follow. I would probably recommend that framework.
I love that. I think this is probably a very great takeaway. Choose your channels, commit to it, and consistently produce content. I love it. I think the three C's makes a lot of sense. So you've added a lot of value over here. I'm gonna do a last round, like a few this or that style questions. It's almost like a quiz. Like, give me your top answer real quick,
Okay.
and then like maybe a brief comment on like why you chose that. So there's going to be like two options that shows up, and then like you pick what makes sense for you. So when it comes to your company building style, what is the style that you would go? Bootstrapped, VC backed, and
Boots,
brief why.
Bootstrap, because that is when you are actively trying to solve a problem. With VC backed, you can get far more ambitious and start building a lot of things before you start solving problems. So bootstrap, absolutely yes, any day.
I love it. And I think you answered this question already. When it comes to like working hours, are you the hustle kind or like the more balanced, take it easy kind?
No, work when you have to work, hustle, right? My weekdays, I get up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like I said, I don't do anything. I sleep for 7 hours. Rest of the time, I do spend time with kids, but hustle is very important. Weekends, I do sail. I do a lot of sailing here in New York. So I do take my boat out and I sail a bit. So that way, some balance is there. But when it comes to the work time, just hustle. I mean, that is big
Love
belief.
it. Love it. Another one, again, when it comes to like focus on growth, would you prioritize usage or revenue?
Revenue, because usage is not does not turn into revenue. From I've seen from my experience, it is always luck factor. I mean, luck factor is very important when it comes to having usage converting into revenue. But if you go the other way around, you are pretty sure about the fact that you're building some real strong product. That is at least my thesis. I could be absolutely wrong. I know a lot of founders who focus more on usage, but my I believe in revenue actually. So
I like it. And when you hit roadblocks, when things are not going, is your like instinct to pivot or iterate?
I would ideally lean towards iteration before taking a call to pivot. Take Lyzr itself, right? Lyzr was started as a data analytics, AI data analytics product. We
Mhm.
iterated for a couple of months, trying to tweak the UI, trying to tweak the experience, user experience, before we decided to pivot in October. That's when I was kind of really tired of LangChain framework. I thought, you know what, let's build something simpler. That's how Lyzr kind of pivoted. But I would not jump to the concept of pivoting before iterating at least a couple of times and failing. So that's
Got it. So instinct to iterate until you have to really pivot. I like it. And then one last question. When it comes to building a team, are you more about like let's rapidly expand or like keep a very low team, like low member count?
lean team, get the best out of the team. So that's very important. I mean, rapid expansion, probably it's good if you have customer expanding, but not from a team standpoint. Last time, even at Power Up, my previous venture, we went to 220 people in 4 years, which without any funding. So, to my standards, that was still a rapid expansion. But this time around, we want to build a multi-billion-dollar company with a few hundred people, if possible. With AI, I think it is possible. So I am on the lean team. Uh, I would say group actually. So
Love it. Siva, this was a pleasure. I think this was a good this or that session as well. Thanks so much for showing up and like giving us your thoughts on like going from 0 to 1 and like your thoughts on social selling and like especially like your ideas on like how to be consistent and like with content. Thank you so much.
no, thank you so much. It was I mean, a lot of interesting questions, and thanks for keeping this engaging. We'll catch up again.
Awesome.